Good morning. We're learning the Daf, page 133, Tractate Shabbos, the 19th chapter. The name of the chapter is Rabbi Eliezer de Mila. So we ended off yesterday saying in the top of the page, Tanoi, that it is actually a controversy between Tanoim, the Tanya, Besar, Ve'afal Pishesh, B'Eres Simol, even if there is Baheres, which is a sign of Tzaras on the foreskin, you still have to circumcise. According to Rabbi Yonason, he said, you don't even have to teach me this law because you can learn it from Chal V'Chomer. Just as Shabbos Chamuro, Deicho, Tzaras L'Keshkin says Shabbos is stringent, and nevertheless circumcision is overriding Shabbos. Circumcision overrides Shabbos. How much more so that it should override Tzaras? Tzaras L'Koshkin. Amomar Besar, Afal Pi She'esham Baheres Imo. Even though a Baheres spot is there, he shall perform the circumcision. Divra B'Yishaya. So why do I need the pasuk Dovo shein miskaven over Dovo shein miskaven? Because he's not miskaven. So the Gemara it's not his intent to cut off the baheres. His intent is to do the bris. The Gemara says V'Dovo shein miskaven muto. So if you're gonna do something but it's unintentionally, I'm not intending to turn on the light. I'm just doing something else and it's going to turn the light on Shabbos. Is it okay? Pasuk is needed according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, unintentional act is still also. Rabbi Shimon concedes that one is liable in the case of inevitable consequence. Psik Reishi is going to be liable. And Abai does not agree with this understanding. Both of them said that Rabbi Shimon concedes that one is liable in the case of inevitable consequence. So seemingly Abai is going along with Rava. The Gemara says, so after Abai heard this qualification of Rabbi Shimon's opinion from Rava, he contemplated and accepted it. However, his explanation of the Baisa was issued beforehand. There are those two who teach this disagreement of Abai and Rava as concerning this following pasuk. Says, take heed concerning the affliction of Tzaras to be very careful. Las is to do implies iatois. Intentionally cutting the baheres, don't do it. However, you may unintentionally, with the best of one's foot, and with a pole on one's shoulder, if it comes off, it comes off. Why do I need the pasuk? Again, it says it's an unintentional act. The Gemara says, okay, but unintentional act is still, is it okay? Question mark. This is needed, the pasuk is needed only according to Rabbi Yehuda, who said that an unintentional act is forbidden. Scripture must expressly condone the inadvertent removal of baheres. And Rabbi Shimon concedes in the case of an inevitable act, the pasuk teaches that even though baheres will inevitably come off as a result of the routine activity, the activity is nonetheless permitted. Routine activity. Abai does not agree with this understanding. Abai and Rava both said, Rabbi Shimon concedes that one is liable in the case of inevitable consequence. Levosel the Shom Rovasvos. So it's like we said before. Abai heard this qualification of Rabbi Shimon from Rava and contemplated and accepted it. Abai, when he initially held that Rabbi Yeshai's exegesis accords only with Rabbi Yehuda, Ali with Rabbi Shimon, I besar my avidle. According to Rabbi Shimon, what is he going to do with the word besar? What did he do with the extraneous word flesh? According to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, concerning an adult who tells his circumciser to cut off his bahera spot, intending thereby to attain purification. The word flesh teaches that entertaining such intent in the case of milah is permitted. Imagine an adult and he has baheras on the tip. Down there on the tip, right. And he tells them, well, cut it, make sure you also remove the baheras. So you see that it's permitted. Okay, fine with the adult, uncircumcised adult, who has the mental capacity to entertain an intent for purification. What about the baby? He doesn't know. When the father of the baby says that that's his kavana, that's his intent. If there is another person who can take responsibility for the minor's circumcision, let the other person perform that function. Wherever you encounter a positive commandment and a negative commandment, a prohibition, in conflict with one another, positive and negative in conflict with one another, if you can observe both of them, fine, preferable. But if not, let the positive commandment come and override the negative. The Leika Acher, indeed, it teaches that where there is no person other than the father who can oversee the minor child's circumcision, and so according to Abai's initial understanding of Rabbi Shimon's opinion, the word flesh instructs that a father may intend for circumcision to effect his minor son's purification from tzaras. Circumcision overrides the festival melacha restrictions only when performed at its proper time. From where do we know this law? You shall not leave any of it until the morning, and that which is left until the morning you shall burn it. Doesn't mean it is not necessary for the Torah to state until morning a second time. Why does it say ad boker twice, second time until morning? Scripture comes to give the Pesach offering a second morning, the first morning of Chol HaMoed for its burning. By Omar Kro, Oila Shabbos Shabbat, the oil offering of each Shabbos on its own Shabbos. But a weekday oil is not burnt on Shabbos. And a weekday oil is not burnt on a festival day. No work may be done by them except for what must be eaten for any person, only that may be done for you. Not the preliminaries. One may not perform a melacha to accomplish any of the preliminaries to food preparation, such as manufacturing a spit, knife, or oven for cooking. It's referring to festival days, to Yom Tov. Allowed to cook, but you're not allowed to make the preliminaries for cooking. Right. So also, when are you're allowed to perform bris on Yom Tov? It's when it's proper time. But if it's not the proper time, the time already passed, or it's too early, you're not allowed to do it. That's in Kal V'Chomer. We'll learn it from Kal V'Chomer. Shabbosin asehu. Shabbosin means solemn rest, constitute a positive commandment. And work on Yom Tov is prohibited by both a positive and a negative commandment. A positive commandment, such as deferred milah, pushed off, does not override the opposing combination of negative and positive commandment. It doesn't have the power to. If it's just aseh and lo taseh, then aseh can override lo taseh. But if it's aseh, lo taseh, and aseh together, it does not override. Rabbi Akiva stated a general rule: any labor that can be performed on Shabbos Eve does not override the Shabbos Melacha restriction, and any labor that cannot be performed on the Shabbos Eve does override the Shabbos restriction. Rabbi Akiva argues with Rabbi Eliezer, who permits the performance of preliminaries to a mitzvah on the Shabbos. Rabbi Akiva maintains, however, that when a preliminary can be performed before the Shabbos, one may not perform it on the Shabbos, and Omer now rules in the matter. Amar Bud Amarav, Halacha Rabbi Akiva, the law accords with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. You don't do anything you can do before Shabbos, you should do it before Shabbos, and therefore you're not allowed to do it on Shabbos. Bris, you cannot do before Shabbos because it's not the proper time. So now, we also learned like this in another Mishnah with regard to the Passover sacrifice. Rabbi Akiva stated a general rule: any labor that can be performed on the Shabbos Eve does not override the Shabbos restrictions. However, slaughtering, which is impossible to do on the Shabbos Eve, Shabbos does override the Shabbos restrictions. The law accords with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Any melacha that you can do, any work that you can do before Shabbos should be done before Shabbos and does not override the Shabbos. Shechita, for example, slaughtering, Passover sacrifice, impossible to do on the Shabbos Eve. You can't do it Friday before the time. The Shabbos does override the Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda said, if you only mention about the bris, that preliminaries that can be performed yesterday do not override the Shabbos restriction. The leika chorus. There is no penalty of excision for the mitzvah non-fulfillment. Our Pesach, with regard to the Passover sacrifice, the leika chorus, Shabbos maybe should override the Shabbos because Pesach is associated with the chorus for not doing it. Or you can find something that Pesach is more lenient because it doesn't have 13 covenants that were made over the mitzvah. The Pesach offering, it's about Milah. Circumcision has the 13 covenants. So Milah, maybe the Milah should override the preliminaries of Milah should override Shabbos. So the tzricha, therefore, you need both cases: the case about the bris and the case about the Pesach. It is therefore necessary for Rabbi Yehuda to instruct both cases. That halacha follows Rabbi Akiva, who held that the preliminaries to a mitzvah may not be performed on the Shabbos when they can be performed beforehand. We may perform all the necessities of circumcision on the Shabbos. We may circumcise, uncover the corona, draw the blood. Well, there's another name too.
That's where they got the name from this to that. It means crown. It's crown in Latin. So the crown is the crown of the penis, the crown of. Place a bandage and cumin upon it. From here we see that cumin is a healing, right,
as maybe stopping the blood effect. And if he did not crush the cumin on the Shabbos Eve, and he made chew it with his teeth and apply it. If one did not vigorously mix wine and oil on the Shabbos Eve, each of these ingredients should be placed in the bowl by itself. And we may not, in the first place, fashion a shirt-like bandage for the member of a kirchel asmatut, but one may wrap a piece of cloth around it. Im lo iskin me'erev Shabbos, if he did not prepare even an ordinary cloth on the Shabbos Eve Kerchaletz Bo, maybe he may wrap one around his finger and bring it, and he may also bring it from another yard. The Gemara says, Kulu, you have to teach me, give me all these examples, all the stages of Milah procedure, all the necessities of circumcision come to include what? The teaching of the rabbis, to include the teaching of the rabbis. If someone, as long as someone is engaged in this, in the performing the circumcision, he may return both to the shreds that impede the validity of the circumcision and to the shreds that do not impede the validity of the circumcision. Cut them off. Peireish, once he withdrew from the act of circumcision, from circumcising, having decided that the circumcision was completed, he may return to the shreds that impede the validity of the circumcision and cut them off. But he may not return to the shreds that do not impede the circumcision. Who is the Tana that said that once he withdrew, he completed the bris, he doesn't go back to it, and cut off the non-impeding shreds? Amar Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broikoi, Shmuel the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broko. The Tanya stored in Abayit Arbaso Shechal b'Shabbos, the 14th of Nisan, that fell on Shabbos. One skins the Passover all the way to the breast. We learned it before, because up to the breast it goes to the Mizbeach. From there on, it's for the human consumption. So should not be done on Shabbos. Should wait to the end of Shabbos. But the rabbis disagree, and they said that he is allowed to skin the entire carcass on Shabbos. If obviously if Pesach falls on Shabbos, because we do not require fulfillment of the pasuk, this is my God and I will beautify him. In that case, you don't have to go the extra mile to beautify the mitzvah if it falls on Shabbos. In cases where we need to beautify the mitzvah, we have the mitzvah to beautify the mitzvah. It is indeed so that Rabbi Shmuel would condone a resumption of the milah. Condone meaning would agree or disagree?
Condone is agree.
Agree. The Tanya zeh keli vanveu is no the fun of a mitzvah. Beautify oneself before him. That's where we take the mitzvah every time to beautify the mitzvah that you do. Aser from sukkah no hidu. Right, make before him a beautiful sukkah. Lulav noig, try to get a nice lulav. Shofar no, a nice shofar. Tzitzis no, a nice tzitzis. Sefer Torah no, a beautiful sefer Torah. Chosu bo lishmo b'dyono, and it is written for its own sake. L'shem shomayim, with beautiful ink. B'kulmus no, b'lavlo uma, beautiful pen. Expert scribe. B'chorcho b'shiroi noin. Wrap the Torah in beautiful silks. Abba Shol says, "Vanveu hevet demeloi." What does Vanveu mean? Try to be like him. Try to be like Hashem. Ma'ahu chan v'rachum. Just Hashem is gracious and compassionate. Afato echan v'rachum. You should also be gracious and compassionate. And Rabashi Hamani Rabbi Yossi Datnan. Who is this? Tana it's Rabbi Yossi Datnan. For we learned Ben Shnilo Ba'alil whether the new moon is clearly visible to everyone. Ben Shlonilo Ba'alil, or whether it is not clearly visible to everyone. Mechalin all of his Shabbos. We desecrate the Shabbos because of it. Rabbi Yossi says, if the new moon is visible, clearly visible to everyone, we do not desecrate the Shabbos because of it. Also, perhaps Rabbi Yossi did not say that there that witnesses may leave their tchum to testify only, tchum Shabbos, the boundary of Shabbos, to testify only because in that case, because Shabbos is not, even in the first place, just a little bit of a introduction to this concept is back in the day they had to have witnesses to testify they saw the new moon. The question is, if they see it on Shabbos, what do? They're allowed to leave the tchum or not, for the sake of testifying. So it says the Shabbos is not even in the first place given to be overridden. But here in the case of Milah, where the Shabbos is given to be overridden in the first place, it is indeed so that Rabbi Yossi would condone a resumption of the Milah. He may not be the Tana of this Baisa. The rabbis argue with Rabbi Yossi in the matter of lechem aponim. What was the machlekes, the dispute regarding the showbread? That now four kohanim enter the sanctuary to perform the service of lechem aponim, the showbread. Shnayim v'odom shnei sdorim. Two kohanim carrying in their hands the two arrangements of the lechem aponim. Shnayim biodom shnei vazichin, and two carrying in their hands the two spoons of frankincense. V'arbom akdim lefneim, and four other kohanim precede them. Shnayim litos shnei sdorim, two to take away the two old arrangements of lechem aponim. Shnayim litos shnei vazichin, and two to take away the two spoons from the previous week. Those who are bringing in stand on the north side of the table facing south. While those who are taking out stand on the south side facing north. These withdrew and these placed down. So one takes out, one puts right away in. So the table always had the showbread on it. With the hand of this alongside the hand of this. Before it is stated, you shall place showbread before me continuously. Even if these kohanim take away all the bread from the table, and only later these other kohanim place the new loaves down. This also is considered continuously. So according to Rabbi Yossi, continuously means that the table was never empty. The table may not be empty overnight until a new day.
Right.
Because the rabbis, however, even the slightest interruption between the removal of the old loaves and arranging the new constitutes a violation of the continuously requirement, for the interruption renders the arrangement a new placement of bread.
So you must slide one in, as you're sliding one out.
Right. So we may conclude that they would regard withdrawal from Milah after a majority of the foreskin has been cut as rendering any resumption in a new cut which would be forbidden on Shabbos, because a valid Milah has already been performed. It is the rabbis of this Mishnah then will hold that a cessation from an action renders a return to that action a distinct and separate act. So that goes back to if he's allowed to go back and fix the bris. We must trim the shreds of foreskins that impede the validity of the circumcision. And if the shreds are not trimmed, he is punished with excision. Mani, who is it? Who is who is punished with excision? Uman. It is the expert surgeon who performed the partial circumcision. Of Papa Uman, an expert surgeon, let him say to the others present, I've performed half of the commandment, now you perform the other half of the commandment. Papa said, the Baisa speaks of an uncircumcised adult who was later partially circumcised. Since the remaining shreds cover a majority of the corona, he remains uncircumcised. Hence, it is he who is liable to correspondingly. The excision penalty is expressly written with regard to an uncircumcised adult. An uncircumcised male, the flesh of whose foreskin will not be circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from its people. Why would the Baisa repeat an explicit teaching of the Torah? In truth, the Baisa speaks of an expert surgeon who performed a partial and invalid circumcision. And in a case where he came at the twilight of the Shabbos, And the people said to him, you lack sufficient time to complete proper circumcision before the Shabbos day concludes. Hence you will be making a wound on the Shabbos without performing a mitzvah, an act which is punishable by Koros. And he said to them in reply, I do have sufficient time to perform a valid circumcision. And he began performing the milah. In fact, he did not have sufficient time. And so it resulted that it was an unsectioned wound that he made on the child, and he is punished with excision.
That's pretty bad that he did that.
In specifying the stages of milah that may be performed on Shabbos, in specifying the stages of milah that may be performed, almost done, we may draw the blood. So now the Gemara discusses the nature of this procedure. This expert surgeon who does not draw blood from the wound is responsible for creating a danger to the person being circumcised. And so we dismiss him. Pshita, since we desecrate the Shabbos because of the blood, as the Mishnah teaches, sakono, then certainly it is a danger, and we dismiss anyone who fails to draw it from the wound. What then is Rav Papa's teaching us? That this blood is now stored up as if in a vessel. Rav Papa therefore informs us that the blood cannot be drawn without causing a wound. And yet the Mishnah sanctions that procedure because the blood is a danger to the circumcised individual health. It is for that reason that we dismiss circumciser who omits the drawing procedure. And the reason for the Mishnah of drawing blood is the same as that for the application of a bandage and cumin to the wound. My sponsor just as with regard to bandage and cumin, kilovit sakonu. If he does not do it, it's sakona, it's danger to the baby. Avachanami kilovit sakonu. Here as well, with regard to drawing blood, if he does not do as prescribed, it is a danger, and therefore drawing is permitted.
It is a danger to draw the blood that way, whatever.
And we may place a bandage on our aim. A mother told me, a salve compress for all pains is made of shave minai tavu v'chadu kilo, 7 parts of fat and 1 of wax. Rava said the best compress is made of wax and resin. The family of Manumi, the physician, tore their garments in despair and vexation. For Rava would cause them financial loss. They didn't like that Rava taught it. Amalu shavki l'chada, I have left for you one secret cure which I have not revealed. Amar Shmuel Ayman the Moshe Apiv L'Giftuva. You have this one who washes his face and does not dry it well. Niktu ulei chaspiniso. Boils will break out on his face. Ma'itakanto lim shetu v'ma'adesika. Let him wash well in water in which beets have been cooked. Bruchim to you. Why only the man has something to fix? Why woman came more perfect? Women also have what to fix, but not necessarily physically. They have what to fix. They have what to fix. We all have what to work on. But by us, by men, you also have a physical aspect that needs to be refined.
You have time for the halachas, or you don't have time?
We'll continue God willing later.
All right.
But we all have what to fix.
So